invest in this $5 billion project?
They have 70% of the joint venture, so they'll be investing $3.5 billion. We'll be investing 1.5.
And the mill itself will be an independent structure from your companies?
Yeah, it'd be an EBX,
separated.
it'd be the holding company will be investing in none of the existing public companies.
And the other 65, the other companies that are coming, the other 65, do you have what do you expect as far as investments in the area?
Consumer products, as I said, electrical cars, cars, there are several Chinese companies that have been visiting Brazil in the last couple of months or many months, and what ASU offers is a hub. It's a logistic hub, where they can have cheaper energy, world-class logistics, which is really the combination what's so attractive to them. So that's why not only Chinese, but other steel mills, we're negotiating with other steel mills. They are surrendering to the concept of the hub industrial port complex.
But in dollar terms, what do you expect to attract in this first?
Well, we see that in the next 10 years we'll be attracting $40 billion in investment to ASU. To give you a number, it's a big number.
And that's mostly Chinese investment.
No, I wouldn't say that. We'd be surprised with the 65 companies that are coming, and I don't know how many of them will pan out. But it just shows you that the Chinese are starting to leave China, and because we know we're going to offer them the best platform to do business in this country, because most people who come to Brazil, they question, we love your country, you have a huge market, but we don't know how to get in and how to get out. Well, with an efficient port, you solve all these problems.
And how do you see, in overall, the relationship Brazil-China going forward?
I think it's a unique. It gives Brazil the dimension that only China can give. For instance, in the resource arena, the Chinese will continue to be massive consumers of iron ore, and with the steel joint venture with the Chinese, we are proving the following model that for every, say, 3 tons of iron ore that you ship in raw, we produce a ton of steel in Brazil. And with China, if you extrapolate this to a bigger number, you could dream of a number of, why not exporting 300 million tons of iron ore and producing 100 million tons of steel in this country, which is basically 3 times what we produce today. Only China can give us this type of business. And the Chinese, because they want resource security and food security, they understand how important Brazil is for the Chinese, to China. So the mutual benefits are mind-boggling.
And how do you see that relationship when you put it in the perspective of US-China? What does that pan out for the US?
Well, I think the US companies, the big businesses in Brazil are the oil industry, offshore oil. Offshore oil needs a lot of equipment. Americans have great companies in that area, generators, turbines, compressors, big pumps. So as I continue to say when I talk to Americans, the CEOs should come down and understand how big the oil business is or is getting. We are a private example of it. Maybe people always before thought that there was only Petrobras, one big government-controlled entity, and didn't like that type of structure. But here there's private companies and the other private foreign companies that will also start to produce oil. They will need equipment because of Brazil's 70% content rule. So if they don't move, they're going to lose that opportunity. And what people have to take in mind is the size of the opportunity. You don't come for small, If Brazil, if the business opportunity would be small, you maybe keep your production in America or wherever they produce it today. But because of the content rule and because of the size of the business, it's time to come.
Can that, the BRICS then, not only China and Brazil, but getting India in there as well, can that actually change the balance as far as the world economy?
I think there's a massive wealth transfer from the developed countries to the, emerging, the BRICS. Oh, definitely. It's because, if the Chinese are potentially and the Indians are adding, the Chinese 400 million people for the next 15, 20 years. The Indians 300 million people. Brazil another 50 million people into the consumer arena. Jesus, the numbers are here, not there.
The numbers are here in your ballpark, in your field as well. You came from the outside, and in 2 years you went into the very select club of the 10 richest men in the Forbes list. That wealth was catapulted by your IPOs, or taking your companies public. And you have more companies. You invented the idea, floated the idea of EBX, the holding company, going public. Your Colombian venture going public. Is that happening? When?
No, because what I have realized, 6-8 months ago, before we started our drilling program in OGX, our drilling program started in September last year. As I said, 10 wells, 17 finds. What's happening is that the underlying value of my companies today is at least, the total market value is around 44 billion. Before $120 billion, we're not going to go on an IPO for EBX. So it's postponed. The results, I think people, and it takes a while for people to understand the level of success. The market does. You punch a hole, you find oil, and people think, well, they find oil in a place where people found already some oil. Well, what people are not paying attention to is that we're increasing the size of our field. An example, what was, say, 500 square kilometers is extending to 1,500 square kilometers. So the size of the beast is so much bigger. So there's no way today that we would consider IPOing EBX. The underlying, because EBX is the majority of all the underlying public companies, and this value is at least 3 times higher.
Okay, so we have to wait for the 100 billion. We have to keep doing the math, right, before we can get in.
Keep doing the math, yes.
All right.
But that depends also on how much more we find, because our drilling program hasn't stopped. As I said, what the company is finding is incredible. I think people, we have to keep informing our investors through the media, to explain how big everything is and how big it still can be. So that's a challenge. So that's why we're here.
Well, you said you were going to pass Bill Gates. Now you have to pass Bill Gates and Carlos Slim as well to be #1. How soon do you expect to do that?
Well, with my friends, I joke, I already told them to clean up the mirrors on the right and the left side. So, it's a car. Maybe I pass by the right, maybe through the left, who knows?
Right. Some recent profiles in magazines describe you sometimes as an eccentric for having a McLaren in your living room and all your businesses having an X in the name. How much do you think luck played in your success?
You work a lot, you work, and then a little bit of luck helps the whole thing. But it's basically a lot of work, putting a lot of things in the right places, and obviously timing of things that do not depend on you, depend on other circumstances is not my work. So I think, it has helped me, but you help your luck, You get the notion of timing after, putting so many projects into production from scratch, which is, I think, very much our culture. I think what people should appreciate is that we had this incredible increase last year in the Forbes, basically on execution, not on new deals. The deals where OGX went public is in 2008. So last year was very much the execution of a plan that we laid out a year before. So in a world that had values decline, we were the largest creator of wealth.